Welcome back. It's Tuesday, which means we have some news items to cover affecting the Ontario Hockey League one way or another. We don't have the CHL top 10 rankings at the time of recording, and it sounds like there may have been a trade in the Ontario Hockey League. So expect a second news video later on today to cover those details when they are available. But in the meantime, let's dive into the news items that we have right now. Starting off with the 2025 CHL Memorial Cup. The Rimouski Oceanic. They have been announced as hosts for next year's tournament as it makes its way back to the Quebec Major Junior Hockey League. This will be the second time that Rimouski has hosted the Memorial Cup, last time being in 2009. So it's been a while since they've hosted. They have quite the team. There's a good history with this Rimouski Oceanic. They were first in the Memorial Cup Championship in 2000. That was when it was hosted in Halifax, and Rimouski won that national championship, and that's been their only national win since. So you know that's going to be a hungry fan base to potentially win the Memorial Cup on home ice. Obviously, we'll have to wait and see what this year has in store, but you know, if you're a fan and your team ends up hosting, you kind of get a little more excited about that year. So the Rimouski Oceanic, they will be good hosts, as they were a great host back in 2009 when the Windsor Spitfires ended up winning that championship, and that was the first of Windsor's back-to-back Memorial Cup titles. You remember that they won in Rimouski, and then the following year they won in Brandon when the Wheat Kings were hosting from the Western Hockey League. So it's going to be a fun tournament. The Oceanic, they do have some history when it comes to the Memorial Cup, as I touched on. They won the championship in 2000. They were back in 2005 when Sidney Crosby was a member of the team. They ended up losing to the London Knights in what was a classic Memorial Cup run. And then 2009, they were hosts, and they were back in 2015 as Quebec Major Junior Hockey League champions. So it's been a bit, too, since Quebec last hosted the Memorial Cup, and that was because every year they always rotate. So the last two times the Quebec League had the chance to host the Memorial Cup, it was hosted in Halifax and St. John, and the last time it was in Quebec, it was the Remparts who ended up hosting. And what's also of note, this year, of course, the Saginaw Spirit, they're hosting the Memorial Cup this year as the OHL hosts, and the Quebec League has been doing really well at the Memorial Cup. They've won 4 straight Memorial Cup championships, which is a CHL record since the round-robin format was introduced back in 1972. So exciting times for Rimouski as they now prepare for next year. Speaking of the World Juniors, we now know the preliminary rosters for Czechia, and that includes Eduard of the Barrie Colts. For Chalet, this will be his second consecutive year representing Czechia at the World Championships, and it's been a decent season for Eduard Chalet, the Seattle Kraken prospect. With the Barrie Colts, he's got 7 goals, 14 assists, good for 21 points in 25 games. I think for some, they were expecting a little more from Chalet, but it takes time to adjust to the North American ice and the North American game. He's also been dealing with injury. He was injured in the game in Sault Ste. Marie a week ago and did not play in the game against Windsor or over the weekend. So it's for Chalet, it's great to see him being recognized and invited, and hopefully he'll be healthy and ready to go. Because last year at Czechia, he had a goal and 5 assists in 7 games last year for Czechia at the World Junior Championship. So we'll see what he can do this time around. And other OHLers named to the Czechia preliminary roster include Mateus Apovlev from Saginaw, Thomas Hamara from Brantford, Simon Slavacek of Flint, Adam Zidlicki from Mississauga, and Jakub Vondras from the Sudbury Wolves. So those are your OHL representatives for Czechia. Now, a lot of people have been wondering, okay, what's the status with Colby Barlow? Well, here's an update from the Owen Sound Attack, because everyone has been keeping an eye on the Winnipeg Jets prospect. They want to know, when is he going to be back on the ice, because he suffered a back injury and has been out of the lineup since November 8th. So it's been over a month now since we last saw Colby Barlow on the ice for the Owen Sound Attack. The latest update is he is back on the ice at the Bayshore wearing a non-contact jersey. So that's good news. He's taking those steps to get back into the lineup. And now with a back injury, you really don't want to push it because backs are really touchy. So for Colby Barlow, taking his time, and right now for the Owen Sound Attack, they've already come out and said that they are not going to be selling at the OHL trade deadline, which is set for January 10th. Dale DeGray making that clear last week. For Owen Sound, though, they are on a bit of a roll. They have won 8 of their last 10 games and are trying to keep pace in that very competitive Western Conference. So if they can get Colby Barlow back, that'll be a huge step for them, and we'll have to wait and see. Maybe the Owen Sound Attack will add a couple more players ahead of the upcoming trade deadline. Now, there was an interesting development that came out of the game in Sault Ste. Marie Friday night. They were taking on the Kingston Frontenacs. And in that game, the league has come out and admitted there were 2 referee errors in that hockey game. The Kingston Frontenacs, they were up 4-3 early in the third period when Brandon Sirazati scored to tie the game for the Greyhounds at 6:13. But what made it controversial is that there were too many men on the ice. So that goal should not have counted. So you have 2 referees and 2 linesmen. None of them were able to see the 6 players that were on the ice for Sault Ste. Marie. So they did conduct a review. So they went and looked at the video evidence. They did their check, their conversation, and they still said it was a good goal, even though on the replay, you could tell there were 6 players on the ice for the Sioux. But David Branch, the commissioner of the Ontario Hockey League, has come out and spoken about the incident that happened in Sault Ste. Marie. And he says there were 2 issues that came out of the situation. One is that the rule of too many men on the ice is not reviewable. So if there's too many men on the ice and you do the coach's challenge, you cannot review if there were too many men on the ice. So that's the first issue. And the second, they're saying they weren't thorough enough on their review and missed the too many men on the ice. So what it sounds like happened is that they looked at the face-off in the Sault Ste. Marie zone and saw that there were 5 players on the ice at the time for the Greyhounds, but during the course of the play, a player didn't come off the ice, and they ended up having 6 as a player came on, and then Sirazati tied the game at 4. So it's unknown if there's disciplinary action coming to the referees and the linesmen, but at this point, you can't change the outcome. The game is already over. Ended up being a 7-5 final for Sault Ste. Marie. So it is that, what if that goal didn't count? Would Kingston have held on to the game and ended up getting a big victory in the Sioux? We can't play the what if game. And it is nice to hear that David Branch making a comment about the situation in Sault Ste. Marie, because oftentimes when there's something that happens on the ice like this, we don't hear about it. People are talking about it on fan forums or at the rink about the situation that happened, and then it just stirs up rumors and just that animosity towards officials. But I think it's really good that the league has come out and said, yes, there were a couple of mistakes, and they're actually being open and honest. And you know that this is a teachable moment. And as a fan, you know that the league is looking into this. They're talking about it, and they're going to be probably talking with all the officials across the Ontario Hockey League, if not all of the Canadian Hockey League, just to make sure everyone's on the same page, especially with the fact you can't review a too many men on the ice penalty. And when you are doing the review, you got to be thorough. And the problem, though, is these are humans, after all. We're going to make mistakes. I might be in the minority where I'm okay with the occasional error. It adds to the story of the game. Yes, we want to have the right calls all the time, but do we really want to have everything being scrutinized with review? We've already seen it a few times at the Saddlein Arena for a Barrie Colts game where we're waiting for the thumbs up from the official to say it was a good goal, or we're waiting for the official to get off the tablet because they were doing a review. The reviews just take away the momentum. Whenever there's a goal scored, you want to just keep going, especially if you're the team that scored that goal. So if you're waiting for that thumbs up to say it's a good goal, well, you're kind of killing the momentum. You already have the buzz in the arena from the goal, and then we're just sitting waiting. We're waiting for the answer. Is it a good goal? Is it not? So I don't want to see more reviews coming out of this. I really don't think this will result in that, but it is kind of nice. I think that the league is talking about it. They're being open and transparent, which is something that the league, I think, is still working towards. We want to have that transparency, and this is a great start. So, I applaud the league for talking about the situation that happened in Sault Ste. Marie. I know the Kingston Frontenacs, they're not happy with the end result, but if it was in the opposite situation, the Soo Greyhounds, they wouldn't be too happy either. So it is good that we're talking about it. I'm glad to see the league is being transparent, but still, the officials, they're human. Until we get AI involved, we're going to have mistakes. And you know what? Personally, I'm okay with that because then we have stuff to talk about as fans. So let me know in the comments section down below your thoughts on the situation that happened between the Soo Greyhounds and the Kingston Frontenacs, and also your thoughts on the Rimouski Oceanic as hosts. Are you okay with that? Are you excited? And if there's anything else that you want to touch on in the comments section down below, don't hesitate to put your comments down, and be sure to hit like and subscribe as we continue through this regular season. Thanks again for tuning in, and We'll talk to you again soon.